While it may be nice to rent a lakeside Airbnb or a Verbo accommodation, many municipalities are concerned about the impact they're having. In some cases, it's like having a commercial operation in a residentially zoned neighborhood, threatening a way of life. On top of that, floating accommodations are growing in the north, representing a threat to lakes and waterways, which are not municipally regulated. So, Andrea Horwath, you start with this question. What will you do about the negative effect that short-term rentals and floating accommodations are having on our communities?
Thanks, Marcus. It's definitely the case that folks, particularly folks here who live in Northern Ontario, get that sinking feeling when a couple of RVs roll up with 40 people who are ready to party for the weekend, because it impacts the quality of life of all of you. There's also no doubt that it's really challenging for municipalities who see their units that are so desperately needed by local folks in terms of rental or ownership be bought up by Airbnb or those kinds of companies and not available for people to live in. And again, the regulation of those things is tough, and so for the municipalities to shoulder. So we have a plan to license those short-term rentals, no matter where they are in Ontario, work with municipalities to make sure that they're accountable and that there are consequences to the things that happen in community. And everybody knows when it comes to floating accommodations, those kinds of things can cause even more problems, because everybody knows how much the water amplifies the noise, and people wonder, where does that gray water go? So again, I know the MNR has been doing some work on this with the municipalities, and I'm certainly looking forward to being the partner that sits down with you and them and figures out a solution that doesn't end up costing municipalities a lot of resources that you just don't have.
Mike Schreiner, what would you do about the negative effect that short-term rentals and floating accommodations are having?
Yeah, Marcus, homes are for people and families, not speculators and commercial companies. We have a housing crisis in this province. It is the biggest cost of living crisis that people talk to me across the north and across Ontario. We have to bring in a registry and regulate short-term vacation rentals to ensure that we have enough housing supply for people who live in the north, do the work in the north, provide the jobs in the north. We need to ensure that we properly regulate water homes as well, for environmental reasons, if nothing else, but also for quality of life reasons, for local residents. We have to ensure safety. We have to also recognize, and I think in the regulatory framework we can do this, that there are some homeowners who do rent out their primary residence, and it is an important source of additional income. And so when I talk about regulating it, it's regulating those speculators and corporations who are buying up homes only to use as short-term rentals. Those homes should be for people. That's why I'm so proud that we're the only party calling for a multiple home speculation tax to drive speculators out of the marketplace, because homes are for people and families, and we have to ensure that everybody in this province has an affordable place to call home in the community they love, near their friends, their families, and where they work.
Thank you, Mr. Schreiner. And finally, to Stephen Del Duca, short-term rentals, floating accommodations, what would your party do about it?
Well, it's such an important question. Earlier today, I was chatting with Tanya Raybosch, our candidate here in the riding of Nipissing. I heard from her and others at that event about exactly how disturbing the situation is, that the stories being told about people who are coming up from further south here in the province of Ontario and elsewhere, who recognize the incredible natural beauty and all of the amenities that exist here, but are doing it, as both Ms. Horwath and Mr. Schreiner have said, from the standpoint of speculation. And in the midst of what is the worst housing affordability crisis that our province has ever seen, we can no longer allow the simple forces of the free market, as much as I believe in the free market, in the midst of this kind of crisis, to sort through this and still defend what you hold dear, and still preserve the character of your local neighborhoods, your communities, and make housing affordable and accessible for you, or your kids, or your grandkids. So working very closely with municipalities, including, of course, across the north, working with, as was pointed out, the federal government through the Ministry of Natural Resources, Ontario Liberals would want to look for creative ways to make sure that the unique character of your communities is being preserved, while at the same time you're able to access the kind of shelter, the kind of homes that you should be able to have access to through various forms of creative regulation. Thank you.
Doug Ford, what would your party do about short-term rentals and floating accommodations?
Well, first of all, we love Ontario. It's the most beautiful jurisdiction anywhere in the world. We encourage people to come up and spend their money in tourism. We did a tax credit for vacationers anywhere in Ontario, upwards to $400 per family. But I asked the people that are renting, and it's not all big corporations that are out there. These are people that need additional income. Be respectful. Very simple. You don't go there with 30 people and jumping up and down, doing cartwheels. Be respectful. Treat it like your home. But these same people will go into town and they'll go to the restaurant. They'll go into the local stores and generate more jobs and generate more revenue. So, you know something, I always consult with the municipalities, which I have. We have some great representatives running. We have, I believe, 6 mayors running in the north. And I consult with them. I consult with the other mayors. And you can't compare North Bay to Thunder Bay, up to Kenora. Everyone has their own jurisdiction and everything's different. So I'd consult with the municipalities.
We are going to open up now for discussion. And still on the topic of accommodation, I know the price of a home is expensive in Southern Ontario, but prices are going up in Northern Ontario as well. So Andrea Horwath, we'll get you to start this open discussion so anyone can jump in, but what does your party plan to do to make housing more affordable in the North?
You're absolutely right, Marcus. The housing affordability is a crisis all over Ontario and in Northern Ontario as well. And already, young people are walking away from their dreams of ever owning a home. And of course, that means people leave the communities that they love to find something more affordable. In some cases, move great distances away from loved ones, away from a family. So what we need to do is really take seriously the housing crisis. It started under the Liberals. It got worse in the last 4 years. So we have a number of measures, including helping those first-time homeowners with their down payment, making sure we tame the speculation that Mr. Schreiner was talking about before. These are things that we put out in our housing platform some time ago now.
Mike Schreiner, would you like to jump in?
Crisis. As well, affordable housing
Marcus.
is another piece that I think Mike and I agree on. Affordable housing is necessary for those that can't afford to be in the market.
Thank you, Marcus. So last June, the Ontario Greens put out a housing affordability strategy.